Ray. The one constant through all the years, Ray, has been baseball.
Little roller up along first. Behind the bag. It gets through Buckner. Here comes Knight, and the Mets win. Now the 2-1. Line drive to base hit. Justice has scored a tying run. Green to the plate. And he is safe. Safe at the plate. The Braves go to the World Series.
Have reserved seats somewhere along one of the baseline that sat when they were children and cheered their heroes.
Gibson swings and a fly ball to deep right field. This is going to be a home run. Unbelievable!
A 3-run home run for Bucky Dent. The Yankees now lead by a score of 3-2.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mazeroski has hit a 1-0 pitch over the left field fence at Forbes Field to win the 1960 World Series.
They'll arrive at your door as innocent as children, longing for the past.
The Pope arrived at Yankee Stadium. As one enthusiastic announcer put it, he is standing on second base.
Reggie Jackson. Long drive right field. It is goodbye. Big World Series celebration.
The Blue Jays are World Series champions as Joe Carter hits a 3-run home run.
Back and throw. There's a left back. It's going to be, I believe, the Giants from the pennant. The Giants from the pennant. The Giants from the pennant.
The 0-1 pitch. A liner off Nagy's glove into center field. The Florida Marlins have won the World Series.
The memories will be so thick that I can brush them with my faces.
The 1-0 delivery to Fisk. He swings, long drive, left field. If it stays fair, it's gone. Home run. The Red Sox win. And the series is...
Lolich fires. Ball is hit high in the air. This should be the series. Freehand waving everybody away in foul territory. Detroit wins. Here's the pitch to Willie.
There's a liner straight to Richardson. The ball game is over and the World Series is over. Willie McCovey hit it like a bullet. A line drive right
Baseball to mark the time.
The Oakland A's take.
I'll tell you what, we're having an
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Candlestick Park for Game 3 of the 1989 World Series.
It's been erased like a blackboard, rebuilt and erased again.
Frank Robinson, the right-hand batter.
long drive to left field. Weaver. Gets it picked up. Home run.
Base hit loaded, 1 out. Pena in a chance. The Twins are going to win the World Series. The Twins have won it.
Ozzie with 1 out. Smith corks one into right down the line. It may go. Go crazy, folks. Go crazy. It's a home run. And the
Willie Mays just brought this crowd to its feet with a catch, which must have been an optical
This field, this game, is a part of our past, Ray. It reminds us of all that once was good, and it could be again.
Broadcasted live.
Hey! Who wants to have some fun?
There are balls coming from all over the place. Left field, center field, right field. See, this is the kind of thing, quite honestly, right now, that makes you want to see the Chicago Cubs team lose.
Now, you just saying you want to have fun, or do you really want to have fun?
It'll be fun.
Will the next person that sees anybody throw anything onto this field, point them out, and get them out of here. You don't live in Cleveland. You live in Cincinnati.
You talking to me? You talking to me?
That is the farthest thing in the universe from the truth.
Hello, everyone, live. It's the Dan Scott Show. And right there is your host, Dan Scott.
All right. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Wednesday edition of the program. I am your host, Dan Scott, and I was going to say Mr. Rourke, but this is definitely not Fantasy Island. This is the Dan Scott Show. People often ask me how I'm doing, and I say, living the life that most people only dream of, but then I have to remind them that nightmares are dreams too. Anyway, how's your morning going? Overcast day, some rain in the forecast today. I've got a road trip coming up shortly after the show is done, heading to Chattanooga for some Furman basketball, which we'll be talking about coming up here in just a little bit. But all in all, not a bad day, and hope that yours is off to a great start. If it is, we'll try not to mess it up. If it's not, maybe we'll do something that'll give you a little bit of a boost. And the bottom line is every day we try to learn something we did not know. And yes, that is easier for some of us than it is for others. On the program today, as we were just getting ready to start talking live, you saw updates on the screen. Furman with a pretty significant hire to its football staff, with George Quarles being promoted up to the offensive coordinator spot after Drew Cronick left to become the head coach at Lenoir-Rhyne, left an opening on the staff. Well, Clay Hendricks filled it with a guy who's got a pretty good pedigree, a guy by the name of Connor Shaw. This will be his first coaching position, but he is a young man who we want to talk about a winner. You want to talk about all the intangibles. You want to talk about a fine, upstanding young man. He's going to be a great fit for this program. He is going to be the tight ends coach under Coach Clay Hendricks. And coming up at about 10 minutes past the hour in our next segment, Willie Smith, the former South Carolina beat writer for the Greenville News, is going to join us. He covered Connor Shaw's career and has even done some other things with Connor since he's been in the Greenville area. Willie's going to join us via phone to give us a little insight into this guy. I think we know quite a bit about him anyway, but Willie was with him day in and day out for Connor's 4 years in Columbia, and he's going to be here to give us some insight. And right now, all the coaches are on the road, but when things settle down, we will get Connor Shaw here in studio on camera and get him to talk to our Furman fans and I'm sure some South Carolina fans and others who will be tuned in. But that's in the future. Today, it's Willie Smith who will be joining us to talk about him. Dave Glenn, all things ACC at 10:25, and some Furman Chattanooga talk as well as we preview that matchup as the Paladins look to go 4-0 out of the gate in the Southern Conference. So a lot to get to today. I think the excitement of Connor Shaw's hiring onto this staff here has created a buzz, not only here, but it's made news, obviously, all around the state of South Carolina. And it has brought even more attention to this Furman football program coming off of Clay Hendricks' first season, in which they go 8-5, go 2 rounds deep into the playoffs, finish second in the Southern Conference at 6-2, all that turning around a 3-win season the previous year. So a lot of momentum. The momentum is carried over in recruiting. It's carried over in the hiring of Connor Shaw and the coaching staff, and fully expect to see it continue to carry over as the regular signing period opens up on February the 7th. Already had the early signing period, now the regular signing period. Paladin's only expecting to sign maybe 6 or 7 more guys into the program after having a successful early signing period. So they're out recruiting, working on those guys, keeping tabs on them. And as I said, as soon as Connor Shaw is available back on campus, we will get him here in studio. Our program, as always, brought to you by our friends at the Atlanta Bread Company in Cherrydale Plaza. I just had breakfast there again this morning. Great people, great food. You know the routine, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to stop telling you about it, because it's true. Day in and day out, the service is fantastic. The food is great. Got the hot coffee going this morning, and always enjoy my time there. It's a time where I go, I can get, even in a restaurant full of people, I can kind of get what I would call isolated an hour and a half or so ahead of the program starting, and just kind of focus in on some of the things we're going to be talking about today, and enjoy some alone time before we get rolling. Stop by and see them. And when you do, please tell them that you heard about them here on the program. Thank them for what they do as far as sponsoring this show. That's the Atlanta Bread Company, Cherrydale Plaza here in Greenville. All right, when we come back, we'll have Willie Smith, and we'll talk about Connor Shaw from his standpoint, having covered him for 4 years down in Columbia, and what he believes Connor will bring to this Furman football program. That and more as the Dan Scott program continues right after this.
Hey Furman fans, it's baseball season. Here at Ingalls, we know that as you root for the home team, sometimes you want more than just peanuts and Cracker Jack. And while we do deliver on your favorite ballpark classics, we're proud to offer a packed lineup of everything you need to make your next meal a home run. Ingalls, a proud sponsor of Furman Baseball and the official grocery store of Furman Athletics. Go Dins!
The Atlanta Bread Company at Cherrydale Point offers a dining experience that will have you coming back for more time and time again. Everything is freshly made on site, including the different varieties of bread and all the baked goodies. And the menu, Atlanta Bread Company offers a wide variety from hot soups and chili to hot and cold sandwiches and paninis. Even breakfast selections topped off with your choice of piping hot coffees. Come see for yourself. You'll love it. The Atlanta Bread Company at Cherrydale Point, proud sponsors of the Furman Paladins and the Dan Scott Show.
Looking for a good lunch spot in the Travelers Rest area? The Cafe at Williams Hardware is your place. Williams Hardware has food for the whole family, from the famous Reuben to the barbecue chicken quesadilla and their daily lunch specials, which includes the award-winning BLT unpimiented cheese with pepper jelly, served Tuesday to Thursday. Williams Hardware also serves breakfast on Saturdays from 8 to 11, perfect before Furman home game. And don't forget their gift shop, which offers items for anyone on your list. Go see your friends at the Cafe at Williams Hardware, 13 South Main Street in downtown TR. Full menu and operating hours at the Cafe at WilliamsHardware.com.
Say you've got a busted phone or tablet screen. Time to get a new device? Nope. Time to give it CPR. CPR Cell Phone Repair at Cherrydale can repair almost any phone or tablet screen on the market and usually can do it same day. In fact, if you have an iPhone, the fix usually takes less than an hour. CPR Cell Phone Repair also can fix computers and gaming systems, both screens and hard drives. And they sell refurbished devices and new accessories. Stop by and see the new owner, Janet Culver, today, and check them out on Facebook. That's CPR Cell Phone Repair at Cherrydale, 864-282-9097. Give it CPR today. Welcome back to the program. It is about 8 minutes after the hour of 10 o'clock here on this Wednesday, right? Yeah, Wednesday, because I've got a road trip coming up, which we're going to talk about here in just a little bit. But we are going to go direct to the celebrity guest line and welcome in our good friend Willie T. Smith, for many years a very fine beat writer of various programs, both collegiately and professionally, for the Greenville News. And during that time, he had the pleasure of covering the South Carolina program all 4 years that Connor Shaw was the quarterback there. And, of course, Connor Shaw now the new tight ends coach here at Furman. So who better to go to than a guy who was with that South Carolina program during Shaw's entire career. Willie, how you doing, buddy?
Doing great. Hope you are too.
Good. We appreciate you joining us here on short notice. But as I said, I thought you ought to be able to give us some tremendous insight on Connor Shaw, not only as a football player, but also as a type of person he is. And I say that knowing that I think anybody who's ever read anything about Connor Shaw has a pretty good idea about this young man's character.
Yeah, he is. You probably will not find a harder working or better human being than Connor Shaw, to be honest with you. As you know already, he's already got a great coaching lineage. His dad is a longtime successful coach at Flowery Branch, and his brother, who you've probably seen play, Jalen Shaw, who played at Georgia Tech and Georgia Southern, I think is coaching as well. And Connor's got it in his blood. I've actually, in addition to watching him play since he's graduated, I've been to several of his camps, and you know how these camps go sometimes. Sometimes a lot of guys just hang out with kids, and for a couple hours. But he actually, even the young ones, you see him getting in there and teaching those kids. So it's kind of in his blood.
What was, I don't even know if you can answer this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Can you pare down what his single best quality was during the time that you were around him on a regular basis?
It's hard to say one, but I would say probably the strongest one I'd have to say is his single-mindedness and his refusal to give up and refusal to lose. I think one thing I can remember, Gamecock fans will never forget. He had an injured knee, and in addition, a lot of people don't know, but he also had the flu when South Carolina played at Missouri a few years ago. They were down 21-3 in the middle of the third quarter, and he came in on one leg, and as you know, led them to a big victory. And but that's the kind of guy he is. He could barely walk, but he found a way to bring him back from an 18-point deficit in a quarter and a half. And that's just the kind of guy he is. He's the kind of guy who lived in the film room. I get you say that about a lot of guys, but with him, it was really true. And he just really loves everything about football.
Willie Smith joining us. He covered Connor Shaw during his career at South Carolina when Willie was the beat writer there for the Greenville News, and has also kept in touch with him during his time after his career at South Carolina ended. What will make Connor Shaw a great football coach, Willie?
I guess number one, knowledge of the game. Number two, work ethic. And I think something else that that people may not think about immediately. I think he's going to be a great recruiter. I think he's going to make a great presence in the homes of future Furman football players, potential Furman football players, because he's a very thoughtful guy. He's a bright guy, and any question that's thrown at him, he'll be able to answer. So I think I don't think there's really a weakness that he has, and I think and on the other side of things, I think Connor getting an opportunity to start his coaching career on the college level, playing coaching with someone like Clay Hendricks, who obviously is an outstanding coach himself and has done a great job already turning the Furman program around, is going to be very beneficial to him as well. And I can tell you from talking to several Gamecock fans, not just yesterday, before that, a lot of them are hopeful that one day he'll end up in Columbia. But right now, I think he's very happy being able to coach with Furman, I think that's going to be a great fit for him and his family.
Yeah, I think he's going to be a great fit for the staff, and I think that he's going to learn a lot under Coach Clay Hendricks and George Quarles and this staff here who had so much success in their first year. And you know, when you're going out into kids' homes these days, we're seeing a trend of more and more younger coaches, younger coaching staffs, coaches wanting to get recruiters on the road who can, quote unquote, identify with these kids. And Willie, I got to think that Connor Shaw walks into a recruit's home with an incredible amount of what they call street cred, not only because of his career at South Carolina, but as short and injury riddled as it was, he did reach the highest level. This guy played in the NFL, so he knows what it takes to get to the peak of the profession.
Yeah, and let's be honest, frankly, and I think he would probably admit this to you. Maybe he wouldn't, I don't know. But you look at him and his skill set, and frankly, he had no business being in the NFL. That tells you the grit and determination he had, and the refusal to get up, because he didn't have the strongest of arms. He was a great runner, but he's not a very big guy. But it tells you a lot about the inner determination he has that he was able to survive in the NFL for, I think, what was about 4 years, I think.
Yeah, and it may still be there if it had not been for the injury, quite honestly. But these things end up usually working out, and obviously I think it's going to be Furman's gain without question as we continue visiting with Willie Smith, former beat writer with the Greenville News covering South Carolina. I started to think about the list of places and programs you did cover while you were at the Greenville News. Do we have time to rattle all those off?
Let's see. Okay. When I first got there, I was covering what was then the Sac 8 schools, Newberry, PC, and Wofford, which was a Sac 8 school at the time. That tells you how old I am. And then I went from there to Clemson. I went from Clemson to Furman. From Furman to Atlanta, where I was covering the pro sports plus Georgia and Georgia Tech. And I went from there to Charlotte, where I was covering the Panthers and the Hornets and the Charlotte Sting for a while, which is where I first met Don Staley. And from there, went back to Atlanta, and then to Greenville covering Furman, and then to Clemson briefly for like half a season before they realized they needed somebody in Columbia. And I've been in Columbia. Well, I've been covering South Carolina for probably the last 8 or 9 years. I've covered them for the last 8 or 9 years, I guess it's been. Yeah,
that's a heck of a resume that you've put together there. And you call it old, I call it veteran.
Well, I will take that, but I am old.
I understand. When you look back over Connor Shaw's playing career at South Carolina, what are some of the things that stand out to you? Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the Missouri game. What are some others?
Well, the first thing you've got to mention, and most Gamecock fans have mentioned to you, is he never lost a game in Williams-Brice Stadium. He left there undefeated. I think the only quarterback ever South Carolina had that was undefeated as a starter in Williams-Brice Stadium, never lost a game. So that one's huge. Obviously, he was undefeated against Clemson. Although I will point out one of those games he was injured and didn't play. Dylan Thompson gets the win for that one. But he never lost to Clemson, which is looking at what's going on at Clemson now, you wonder how that happened. But he did that, and he taught and I think the great respect, frankly, that Steve Spurrier had for him, I think speaks volumes. In fact, I was talking to Connor, and he pulled out this little piece of paper one time. This was in Greenville. We were on Main Street at Starbucks on Main Street, and he pulled out this piece of paper, and he said, "This is my most prized possession." I said, "What is that?" He says, "Well, Coach Spurrier gave me this." He said, "This is the very first lineup card when I was a starter, and after I played my last game, Coach Spurrier gave it to me. And he said it meant so much to me that he actually kept it all that time and gave it to me, which I think tells you the respect that a coach, like Steve Spurrier had for him, which to me speaks volumes about, the kind of respect that coaching staff had for him.
Yeah, because Spurrier's relationship with his quarterbacks over the years has been tempestuous, to say the least.
And he very rarely, frankly, you're exactly right. And he very rarely, if you look back, he very rarely criticized Connor Shaw. And he had guys, that were, Heisman Trophy winners that he criticized.
Yeah, and shuttled in and out and replaced and did all sorts of things. But Shaw seemed to be that one guy, at least for that period of time.
Yeah, he never took him out of a game unless he was injured. He never took him out of a game because he didn't think he was playing well.
Just kind of wrap it up. Any final thoughts? Anything you can tell Furman fans about this kid and what he's going to bring to the table here as an assistant coach?
Yeah, like I said, I think like I said, nobody's going to work any harder than Connor. He's a hard worker. He lives, breathes football. I guess the only thing he loves more than football is his wife and his 2 young kids. He's a really good family man. And the other thing I will tell you is, since moving, he really loves Greenville. I mean, he's fallen in love with the place, and he's out, he's out and about, meeting people, and so this isn't like, I'm not saying he'll be at Furman for 20 years, but it's not like he's looking to be at Furman a year and then go somewhere else. He and his family really love it up there. I can tell you that. I've been to his home, and he loves Greenville. He really does.
Well, I'm sure Furman fans are hoping he's going to be here a while if his performance lives up to his resume, and I don't think there's any reason to think that that's not going to happen. Willie, thank you so much for joining us on short notice. Really enjoyed the insight, and it's just good to talk to you, my man.
Yeah, you too, and I'm enjoying. Frankly, I'm enjoying Furman's ride, and I think Connor Shaw will add to it. So it's going to be fun to watch.
All right, Willie, we'll talk to you soon, buddy.
Thanks.
That's Willie T. Smith, former beat writer for South Carolina at the Greenville News on the Connor Shaw hiring. And again, as soon as he is available, we'll get Connor here in studio to spend some time with us. All right, when we come back, we'll go right back to the Celebrity Hotline. Dave Glenn of ACCSports.com will join us to talk all things Atlantic Coast Conference as the Dan Scott Show continues right after this.
Stuck in a state of falling behind? Struggling to keep up with your kids, finances, insurance? Then let State Farm agent Steve Borkland in Travelers Rest help you simplify and get to a better state. Because with Steve handling your auto, home, and life insurance, you'll have more time for everything else. More money, too, because adding State Farm policies could mean earning discounts worth up to 40%. That's money Steve can help you put towards a college savings plan. Call State Farm agent Steve Borkland today and get to a better state with State Farm.
Let me tell you something, Cowboy. This rookie can really bring the heat.
He's smoky and spicy with a Chipotle style all his own.
It's a new Montgomery Inn Chipotle barbecue sauce. Make it a part of your home team.
Available now at your neighborhood grocer or online at CincyFavorites.com.
The madness begins here. Make sure you're at the U.S. Cellular Center in Asheville, North Carolina, March 1st through 5th for the 2018 SoCon Basketball Championships presented by General Shale. Watch your favorite SoCon teams compete for a championship and a berth in the NCAA tournament, and take part in exciting events like the Downtown Dribble and the Ingles Jam Fest. Book your travel and tickets by logging on to SoConHoops.com or by contacting the U.S. Cellular Center box office. The madness begins in Asheville. Get your tickets today.
Looking for a good lunch spot in the Travelers Rest area? The Cafe at Williams Hardware is your place. Williams Hardware has food for the whole family, from the famous Reuben to the barbecue chicken quesadilla and their daily lunch specials, which includes the award-winning BLT unpimento cheese with pepper jelly, served Tuesday to Thursday. Williams Hardware also serves breakfast on Saturdays from 8 to 11, perfect before Furman home game. And don't forget their gift shop, which offers items for anyone on your list. Go see your friends at the Cafe at Williams Hardware, 13 South Main Street in downtown TR. Full menu and operating hours at the Cafe at WilliamsHardware.com.
Say you've got a busted phone or tablet screen. Time to get a new device? Nope. Time to give it CPR. CPR cell phone repair at Cherrydale can repair almost any phone or tablet screen on the market and usually can do it same day. In fact, if you have an iPhone, the fix usually takes less than an hour. CPR cell phone repair also can fix computers and gaming systems, both screens and hard drives. And they sell refurbished devices and new accessories. Stop by and see the new owner, Janet Culver, today and check them out on Facebook. That's CPR cell phone repair at Cherrydale, 864-282-9097. Give it CPR today. All right, we are back, and it's good to have you with us here on the show. Dan Scott hanging out with you. Our thanks again to Willie Smith of the Greenville, or formerly of the Greenville News, for giving us some insight on Connor Shaw, who was just hired to the Furman coaching staff, of course, after a fantastic 4-year career at South Carolina, and spent, about 4 years in the NFL as well. We are going to turn our attention now to the Atlantic Coast Conference, and we do it with the guy who is the best in the business. And I'll tell you what kind of guy David Glenn is. David Glenn is sick, and he's not even doing his own show today, but is still doing ours. I don't know if that says more about him and his lack of sanity or what it says. But anyway, he is with us here on the show. I would ask how you're doing, but I guess we already know, right?
Well, Dan, I always try to think relatively. I wake up every day with mostly good health, a great family, and a roof over my head. So there are plenty of people in worse situations than I. So I'll focus on the positive, even though, I thought about this, and you've been on the receiving end of interviews as well. Mm-hmm. It is far simpler to just be able to sit up and answer questions for 15 or 20 minutes. That's a less difficult job description than to say host for 3 hours and drive back and forth to work, which I'm not sure I'm up to on a day like this.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. You don't have to do a whole lot of thinking in the position you're in right now. So, hey, I want to start with this whole Ted Valentine and Joel Berry thing. Did that thing get blown out of proportion? I mean, evidently Ted Valentine, TV Ted as he's known, thinks it did because he says he's considering retiring, and I don't know. For folks who haven't seen it, Joel Berry wanted to talk to him, and Ted defiantly turned his back on him and crossed his arms and wouldn't talk. What do you make of this whole thing?
Ted Valentine is both an outstanding official, and I know some fans don't believe there are any good officials, but when you've officiated as many NCAA tournaments and Final Fours and national championship games as Ted Valentine has, that means you have the respect of your supervisors, and at some point, indirectly, it means you have the respect of most of the men whose games you call, meaning the coaches on the sidelines. However, and we live in a world, Dan, where you're supposed to either pick Teddy's a bad guy and a bad official, or Teddy's a good guy and Teddy's a good official. I don't think the world usually works that way. And the reality is Ted Valentine is both a really good official in most people's eyes and an over-dramatic personality. Mm-hmm. TV Teddy is not a made-up nickname without merit to it. He has a long track record of being incredibly flamboyant and, in my opinion, unnecessarily attracted to the spotlight. And he did it again in the Joel Berry situation. Joel Berry is actually one of the most respected players in the league. His opponents will tell you that. Opposing coaches will tell you that. Other referees will tell you that. He is not at all an unreasonable, provocative, profane, or misbehaving young man. He is the opposite of all those things. So, you know the deal. Joel Berry had his arm grabbed. Nobody called it. Joel Berry very calmly approached Ted Valentine and wanted to have the same little one-sentence conversation that happens all the time in college basketball between players and officials. And Ted Valentine wasn't going to have any of it. And he just very dramatically stormed away and folded his arms and turned his back. And it was all incredibly unnecessary. The only valid point that Teddy has in his defense and his retirement talk is just simply more over dramatic soap opera, unnecessary stuff. It's typical Teddy Valentine. The only point he has is when you're officiating a game, if you spend too much time lending your ear to one coach or the other, or one team's players or the other, of course you're going to hear about it from the fans, right? Those fans are going to start yelling from courtside, why you listen to the Carolina players and not our players? Why are you listening to the Carolina coach and not our coach? So it's a difficult job description, as you know. It is a thankless job. But Teddy so often unnecessarily complicates his own job description and his own reputation. The only way, in my opinion, that he could be an even better official is if he just cut out the drama and got back to being a referee.
Having said all of that, and I agree with you 100%, that most of the stuff that he does is contrived and designed to bring attention to himself and really takes away from the fact that he is a good official. Having said all that, was it enough for the Big Ten to actually pull him off of 2 games this weekend? I mean, isn't that a little bit of an overreaction? I mean, it's just Ted being Ted, for lack of a better term.
I agree with that. If I were the supervisor of officials there, I would have wanted to talk to Ted about it, right? I mean, you're both a supervisor, and that means sometimes you have to be a critic of your own guys. And I knew John Clockerty really, really well, who handled the officiating supervision for the ACC for a long time. I know Brian Kersey, the current man in that job, very well. Also, they are both critics constructively of their own men, but they're also advocates for their own guys. So I think the smart way to do it would be, rather than imposing on Ted Valentine, you're not doing games this weekend, I would have initiated a conversation. And I would have said, hey, Ted, given the climate, somehow this has become a viral video. This has become a SportsCenter highlight. Do you really want to walk into a snake pit that is even more complicated than it usually is for you? Everybody knows what you look like. Everybody knows Teddy's coming to town. And it's at the time when the spotlight is hottest. I would have given the guy at this stage of his career some input on that decision. And who knows? Because of the retirement talk, it sounds like he would not have agreed with a plan to just sort of lay low for a week and then return to his regular schedule. So it doesn't sound like he was given that input. So in the end, yes, I agree with you. It was an overreaction. As long as Teddy was willing to go into that environment, knowing he was going to hear it, because that's what fans have been watching on TV and on YouTube. If Teddy wanted to sit out for a little bit, it probably wouldn't have been the worst thing, but I don't think that should have been imposed on him.
Yeah, just a very interesting dynamic. You know, early in the season, in some of the non-conference games at our level, once or twice a year, we will get some of the higher level officials. I'm in my 7th year at Furman now, and there have been 2 or 3 times that Ted Valentine has actually called a Furman game. We've had Carl Hess, if you want to consider him still an upper level official. We've had him probably 4 or 5 different times during the time I've been here. And by and large, those are the best officiated games that we get without question during the season. So I think your point's well taken, that this guy's officiating, he is one of the best in the business, but it's just so overshadowed by all of the other stuff.
Yeah, and it's interesting you bring up Carl Hess, because that was another situation where, because of an incident at NC State, Carl Hess was actually kept away from Wolfpack games for a while. And that was something that the ACC officials as a whole, and Carl Hess personally, were very sensitive to. They thought that was an overreaction by the ACC decision makers when they didn't think Carl Hess had done anything wrong. We've had other examples of this over the years, and you're right. It's sometimes it is the official bringing it on himself. I don't know if you've been around long enough to remember all these guys, but Lenny Wirtz, way back when, was an infamously flamboyant and sort of attention-seeking guy. Dick Paparo had the approach to officiating where he was referred to. I'll never forget the phrase. as a posturing peacock when he would make a key call. I mean, he was Mr. Drama, and he loved the spotlight and the attention. Some of these guys bring it upon themselves. I feel bad for the guys who are just doing their job and not trying to be in the spotlight, and sometimes may make an honest mistake, and yet they end up being railroaded. I mean, there's a lawsuit going on right now from the official who was bombarded. Remember, his company in the Midwest was bombarded by Kentucky Wildcats basketball fans,
right,
with negative reviews. Of course, they were never customers, but they called his house, they called his business, they tried to ruin his company's reputation on Facebook and with their reviews and otherwise. And to this moment, that's actually the subject of a lawsuit where the official and his family and his company sued the media outlet in Kentucky that they viewed as creating the problem and fanning the flames unfairly and unnecessarily, and sort of, throwing out the raw meat red steak to the angry, rabid Kentucky basketball fans to sort of ratchet up them going after that official. That's just a crazy world. Nothing wrong with being a passionate sports fan, but when you're going that far, it's probably time to seek professional help.
Well, yeah, and it's the downside of social media too, because it allows you to be stupid anonymously. I mean, let's just call it like it is. You don't have to take any account for anything that you do in most cases, and there are some exceptions, but that's usually the way it works. Visiting with Dave Glenn of ACCSports.com. Another coach in this situation who got some unexpected texts and other things from fans was on your show just a couple of days ago. Kevin Keatts at North Carolina State gets his first win, and just happened to be an upset of number 2 Duke. And I'm sure he enjoyed the congratulations, but I'm sure he's also a little concerned that fans got his phone number somehow.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
I mean, I had a cell phone meltdown a few summers ago. And in the aftermath of that, I mean, even if an old friend like you had texted me, I had lost most of my context, and I would have had to reply, "I'm sorry, but who is this?" Right? Like maybe I would have recognized your number, the area code or whatever. But that is a horrible feeling. So here he is coming off the big win over number 2 Duke, which oddly enough, Dan, Kevin Keatts has only been in action as the Wolfpack's coach for 2 months, okay? Started in mid-November. It's now mid-January. He already has 2 wins in 2 months over the number 2 ranked team in the country. He beat Arizona right before Thanksgiving down in the Bahamas. And then his Wolfpack beat Duke this past Saturday night in Raleigh. So 1 win per month on average over the number 2 team in the nation. Heck, you keep that up, you'll end up in the Hall of Fame. But yes, in the aftermath, he told us that, yeah, of course, his colleagues texted him, some old coaching friends, family friends, etc., about the big victory. But then there'd be this flurry of other texts where he had no idea who it was. And sometimes it was a Wolfpack fan that he remembered meeting, but he had no idea, how does this guy have my number? So that's a little bit of an alarming thing for most head coaches, because once a handful of relative strangers have it, it can spread like wildfire, like on the old Pert commercials. She tells 2 friends and she tells 2 friends, and on it goes. But he's thrilled with the victory. He knows the Wolfpack, is still in the bottom half of the ACC as we speak. But if somehow, some way, they scratch and claw their way into like the NCAA tournament bubble picture, wouldn't it be nice to have a win over Arizona and a win over Duke on your resume when it comes time to splitting those hairs?
Only on the Dan Scott Show interview with David Glenn could you get the kind of riveting basketball analysis that includes a shampoo commercial reference.
Yeah.
That was good. I like that.
Hey, you never forget a beautiful woman, and those Pert commercials used to have some beautiful women on it.
Yeah, your wife must not be within earshot. As we continue here with Dave Glenn of ACCSports.com. You've got a story on your website that I thought was pretty interesting, and we might spend a few minutes with, because North Carolina schools obviously are really, really good at mining talent, and yet they somehow missed Jerome Robinson, the very fine player at Boston College. How'd that happen?
The bottom line is, excuse me, and you're right, Dan, he played high school ball right here in Raleigh. Kai Bowman, the other star guard for Boston College, is also a North Carolina kid. it ends up being one of those situations where Carolina and Duke recruit at an even higher level. So, right, if they're going after most of the prep All-Americans and Jerome Robinson and Kai Bowman are just a cut below that level, well, then the Blue Devils and the Tar Heels probably are not going to be offering them scholarships. Then you have Wake and State. If you've already received a commitment from somebody at the same position, for example, Bryant Crawford is a really good veteran guard for Danny Manning and Wake Forest. In the same year, you're probably not going, and Bryant Crawford's a potential all-ACC player, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in the same year, you're probably not going to offer another guy you might like, Jerome Robinson, right in your backyard, who wants to spend part of his college career also playing point guard. So one by one, that's what happened. And in the end, Jerome Robinson ends up living his dream of playing in the ACC, but doing it all the way up at Boston College. Kai Bowman was a little bit different in that he had committed to play football at the University of North Carolina. And that slowed down his recruitment because everybody knew he was committed to the Tar Heels in football. Well, he became even better and better in hoops during his junior and senior seasons. And then he had a soul-searching moment where he basically said to himself, I love basketball even more than I love football. Everybody keeps telling me how great I am as a football player, but my heart is in basketball. And so he decommitted from the Tar Heels in football. And by that stage of his recruitment, a lot of people had already filled up their basketball scholarships. And once again, Boston College swooped in to get that player. It's really unusual. I mean, Boston College is not going to be a top half of the ACC team this year, but how odd is it? We're a basketball state here in North Carolina. We have 4 ACC teams here in North Carolina, and yet all the way up in Chestnut Hill, Massachusetts, their 2 very best players, and it's not even close, are Kai Bowman and Jerome Robinson right here from North Carolina.
Now, just goes to show if you're talented, somebody's going to find you, whether it's who you think it's going to be or not. How is Notre Dame going to tread water? Will they do better than treading water with Bonzie Colson out injured for about 8 weeks?
If they do better than treading water, Mike Bray should be the coach of the year. I mean, he's other than Marvin Bagley III, the sensational freshman forward at Duke. Bonzie Colson is the best player in this league, period. He's averaging a double-double. He shoots better than 50% from the field. He shoots better than 80% from the line. He even hits some threes occasionally. He's a very good defensive player, even though he's undersized in the post. He gets steals. He blocks shots. He has a great attitude. He's an easy guy to root for, coming back for his senior season to get his diploma, and he said to chase championships. He will be back probably right there at the end of February, ramping into March Madness. It is true that, Matt Farrell is also an all-ACC caliber player, so the senior point guard can lead the way, although he's coming off his own injury. Beyond that, there are good players. A young man named TJ Gibbs, only a sophomore, is stepping into the vacancy, if you will. Rex Pfluger is a veteran, solid player for them on the perimeter. And then they're going to lean on a freshman named DJ Harvey, who hadn't received a lot of minutes prior to that, but he is talented. They're really, really short in the post. They did not have a deep bench to begin with. So it is duct tape and all the usual things that Mike Bray jokes about as they go through an ACC schedule that is going to be a lot more difficult than they originally thought without Bonzie Colson in the middle.
All right, Dave, just a couple of football notes, and we'll let you get back to your convalescing as we continue with Dave Glenn of ACCSports.com. The exodus of underclassmen for the NFL is beginning. Lamar Jackson, no real surprise that he is leaving Louisville a year early. Ray McLeod leaving Clemson. That might be a little bit of a surprise, him deciding to leave early. Anything else on the radar you can see coming up, or any players you're watching that could be a surprising decision one way or the other?
Well, one big development, because it's at the all-important quarterback position, just as Louisville took a step back as we project next year, of course, but without the ACC Player of the Year, Lamar Jackson, I think NC State took a step forward, or at least avoided a step back, when Ryan Finley decided to stay for his senior year. Now, not everybody would be thinking that he would even be a candidate to jump early, but he's been told that he has a skill set. In contrast to Lamar Jackson, don't get me wrong, the NFL is fascinated by Lamar Jackson's athleticism, but they're very skeptical about his ability to be an accurate downfield passer at the pro level. We'll see how that shakes out. Well, Ryan Finley's greatest strength is being an accurate down-the-field passer at NC State, and he announced recently that he's going to stay with the Wolfpack. So they're losing so many juniors and seniors off of their 9-4 team. After Clemson and Miami, the next best team in this league was either Virginia Tech or NC State, right? They both finished 9-4.
Right.
So I think the Wolfpack has lost so much, it's going to be tough to duplicate a 9-win season. However, it's certainly more possible with Ryan Finley staying at quarterback. Elsewhere, I was a little surprised a young man named Jesse Bates at Wake Forest turned pro early. He's a phenomenal prospect, but that one took me by surprise a little bit and certainly jolts the Demon Deacons. Cadre Henderson at Pittsburgh is also leaving, so that complicates Pitt's job or goal of getting where it wants to be after a difficult season. You know, and Derwin James leaving Florida State doesn't make Willie Taggart's job any easier since he's taken over for Jimbo Fisher.
Well, something for us to keep a watch on this time of year. You always have those guys who you know are going to go, and then you always have that group of head scratchers. And sometimes they work out and sometimes they don't. And then we get to sit back and analyze it and act like we knew all along, don't we? That's what we do.
Hey, one more thing, Dan. Think about Miami. I mean, and Florida State as well. Not only is Derwin James leaving early, several others from the Seminoles applied for early entry. And at Miami, you have Mark Walton, your star running back, leaving early. And then the front seven, of course, you know, that Manny Diaz defense that essentially led the Hurricanes to the ACC title game. Kendrick Norton is an underclassman defensive tackle who turned pro, and R.J. McIntosh is an underclass defensive tackle who turned pro. Nobody can lose their two starting defensive tackles that have NFL talent and not feel it. I don't care how well you recruit. You know, especially linemen usually take a little time in your program to become their best selves, if you will. Mm-hmm. So that complicates Mark Richt's job of following up an outstanding season with another one.
More things to watch as we move forward. Dave, tell everyone how they can keep up with what you're doing, and then we'll let you get back to resting, my friend.
ACCsports.com, Dan, is the place to go. If you like football, you like men's basketball, you like recruiting, those are the three things we cover most all day, every day. We also have some sports business stuff in there, sports analytics. We have a guy named Brian Geisinger who's all over the numbers game and the analysis and the stats and the objectivity that goes with such things, evaluating football, basketball, and other things. We hope you'll check it out. On Twitter, we're at David Glenn Show and at ACC Sports. And online, as always, whether you're looking for our magazine, our newsletter, or just the website itself, it's ACCsports.com.
Yeah, you had Michael Jordan doing what he did in that NBA Finals with the flu, and you have David Glenn doing what he does today on the Dan Scott Show. David, thank you very much.
I don't think Willis Reed or Michael Jordan have anything to worry about. It's always good to be with you, bud. Take care.
Man. That is Dave Glenn of ACCsports.com. Hey, guess what? Coming up sometime next week, I'm going to get on the horn before the end of this week and solidify a date and time with Billy. But we're going to take the show on the road to Hall's Chop House in downtown Greenville, the Greenville Steakhouse. Figure next week will be easier because we have 2 home games as opposed to trying to do it on a week with some traveling, and get some folks out there and enjoy the great Allen Brothers Prime Steaks they have at Hall's Chop House, and see what else the menu holds for you. It's just a fantastic place. Open 7 nights for dinner. Brunch on Sundays. They have live music. They have a patio that's available when the weather allows, and they're conveniently located in downtown Greenville. Hall's Chop House, the Greenville Steakhouse, and we'll be announcing the date and time of the live show sometime next week in the next couple of days. All right, to break we go. We'll come back with the final segment. We'll talk some Furman basketball, the trip to Chattanooga, and a look at what else is going on around the Southern Conference tonight as the Dan Scott Show continues in just a moment.
Hey, Furman fans, it's baseball season. Here at Ingalls, we know that as you root for the home team, sometimes you want more than just peanuts and Cracker Jack. And while we do deliver on your favorite ballpark classics, we're proud to offer a packed lineup of everything you need to make your next meal a home run. Ingalls, a proud sponsor of Furman Baseball and the official grocery store of Furman Athletics. Go Dins!
The Atlanta Bread Company at Cherrydale Point offers a dining experience that will have you coming back for more time and time again. Everything is freshly made on site, including the different varieties of bread and all the baked goodies. And the menu, Atlanta Bread Company offers a wide variety from hot soups and chili to hot and cold sandwiches and paninis. Even breakfast selections topped off with your choice of piping hot coffees. Come see for yourself. You'll love it. The Atlanta Bread Company at Cherrydale Point, proud sponsors of the Furman Paladins and the Dan Scott Show.
Stuck in a state of falling behind? Struggling to keep up with your kids, finances, insurance? Then let State Farm agent Steve Borkland in Travelers Rest help you simplify and get to a better state. Because with Steve handling your auto, home, and life insurance, you'll have more time for everything else. More money, too, because adding State Farm policies could mean earning discounts worth up to 40%. That's money Steve can help you put towards a college savings plan. Call State Farm agent Steve Borkland today and get to a better state with State Farm.
The madness begins here. Make sure you're at the U.S. Cellular Center in Asheville, North Carolina, March 1st through 5th for the 2018 SoCon Basketball Championships presented by General Shale. Watch your favorite SoCon teams compete for a championship and a berth in the NCAA tournament, and take part in exciting events like the Downtown Dribble and the Ingalls Jam Fest. Book your travel and tickets by logging on to SoConHoops.com or by contacting the U.S. Cellular Center box office. The madness begins in Asheville. Get your tickets today.
Let me tell you something, Cowboy. This rookie can really bring the heat.
He's smoky and spicy with a Chipotle style all his own.
It's a new Montgomery Inn Chipotle barbecue sauce. Make it a part of your home team.
Available now at your neighborhood grocer or online at CincyFavorites.com.
All right, welcome back to the show. Our thanks to an under-the-weather Dave Glenn for spending some time with us and doing what he normally does, bringing us top-quality info on the Atlantic Coast Conference. As we welcome you back to play, want to take just a moment to tell you about OpSource Staffing. They are located in Greenville, Spartanburg, Gaffney, Charleston, and also in Arden, North Carolina. An independent, faith-based, privately held staffing, recruiting, and workforce management company that began back in 2007 with a mission to serve and connect great people to great companies. They spend almost all of their time stocking or sending employees to the manufacturing business. And they also provide a managed services division that offers on-site managed programs for companies that use a large volume of contract staffing. Their heart's in service, and they're committed to their motto of connecting lives for the better by providing resources, training, knowledge, experience, and personal attention to each person they serve. Call them today to find out how OpSource Staffing can streamline your contract workforce for the better. 866-870-8133. That's toll free, 866-870-8133, or online at opsourcestaffing.com. All right, shortly after the show is done, Tom Van Hoy and I are hitting the road to Chattanooga as Furman looks for its fourth consecutive conference win to open SoCon play at McKenzie Arena tonight, otherwise known as the Roundhouse, at 7 p.m. Paladins are 12-4 overall, 3-0 in the standings, have not started 4-0 in the league since the 86-87 season. As we told you yesterday, Furman is up to number 6 in this week's College Insider Mid-Major Top 25 poll, coming off that 74-71 win over Mercer the last time out. This will be the 85th meeting between Furman and Chattanooga. The Mocs are off to a tough start. They're 6-10 overall, 0-3 in the league, but they hold a 54-30 series lead including 30-8 against Furman in Chattanooga, and have won the last 5 meetings at McKenzie Arena. The last time these two teams met, Furman won here at Timmons on February the 9th of last year, 60-56. This is a Tennessee team that's undergoing quite a bit of transition. They have a new coach for the second time in 3 years, and a whole new system, a Wisconsin-style system that's being put into play. And obviously they are struggling a little bit, but they also do have quite a bit of talent, and you just have to hope that the Paladins go in there and play with the intensity level that they've been playing with almost every single moment this year, and no reason to think that they won't. But anyway, that's the matchup tonight, 7 o'clock, 6:30 airtime on Fox Sports 1440. It'll be an ESPN3 live stream from the Chattanooga standpoint, but we encourage you, if you want to watch it, fine. Just turn the sound down, listen to Tom and I. It's also available on FurmanPaladins.com via Stretch Audio, so there are ways you can sync up our audio with their video and get our call of that matchup. I hate to say this because it's our buddy and the dean of Southern Conference broadcasters, Jim Reynolds, who's been down there for about 37 years now and does such a wonderful job. But you can listen to him some other time. Catch Tom and I on the broadcast tonight. The other games involving SoCon teams, Mercer is at Western Carolina this evening. That is a 7 o'clock start. And Harvard will be coming to Wofford as the Terriers play an out-of-conference opponent at home before they host Furman on Saturday. So slim schedule in the league tonight, being a Wednesday night, and but a chance for Furman again to go 4-0 out of the gate in the conference for the first time since the 86-87 season. So, I mean, you're talking about now 31 years since the last time they've been able to pull that off. So an opportunity to do that tonight, opportunity to